The managers are Ariana Bowen and Angeli Johnson Paraidatil. Great job, ladies, and good luck next season.
My turn, but I feel as if some
We're having a
people,
picture, take pictures.
we're in the back and we didn't get to see them, so.
Is the coach here? Come forward so we can take some pictures. And coach and. A proud school.
Yes, we're here to celebrate.
I got her.
Hi, guys.
Yeah. This end of
It's
it.
gonna be cozy.
Guys are the stars coming
Yeah,
up.
come in front of us.
Oh, hi.
Just a little-
Space over there. There you go.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Hold up.
Wait, there's so much taller than
I know. You guys are bad, you're kind of tall. Do you guys want a meal? Here we go. I'll meet with you.
Okay. All right, 1, 2, 3. Just keep moving your eyes.
Good job. Bonus Ridge.
Yeah.
STEAM Academy selected as the Connecticut State winner of the Sampson Solve for Tomorrow competition. The Norwalk Board of Education wishes to congratulate students from Bonus Ridge STEAM Academy who were selected as the Connecticut State winner of the Sampson Solve for Tomorrow competition. Sampson Solve for Tomorrow is a national competition designed to empower middle and high school students to leverage the power of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math to create innovative solutions addressing critical issues in their local communities. Students can catalyze change by applying problem-solving learning, PBL, principles, environmental stewardship, entrepreneurship to address some of the society's most pressing challenges. Bonus students are working to design a new variation of a street light. Students researched and designed a street light that will harness both solar energy and storm runoff water for power. This invention seeks to improve the environment by removing many streetlights from the electrical grid. This will in turn allow for more energy to become available to the community. Last month, the team created a 3-minute video to demonstrate how their invention would work. The team members include, and I hope some of you are here today, Dylan Kuman, Anusha Mondra, Isabel Oliver, Alfredo Martinez. Let me see. Alfredo Martinez, Nella Narajo, Darian Gonzalez, Caleb Delt, Marlo Modest, Jacob Smalik, VT Patel, Jacob Smalik, Juan Eric, Jacob Barstow, and Nora Fatima. Yes. Okay, that's the list. A little bit more. Sampson Solve for Tomorrow was designed to boost interest, proficiency, and diversity in STEM. STEM skills are key to a thriving workforce, and new approaches in education are vital. Between 2022 and 2023, the number of STEM jobs grew 10.8%, a higher rate than non-STEM jobs, 2.8%. Yet national test scores among American school children in math and reading continue to show troubling declines. Sampson will name 10 national finalist schools to participate in a live pitch event where they will present their projects to a panel of judges. 7 of these schools will be awarded $50,000 in Sampson technology and classroom supplies. A community choice winner will also be determined through online voting by the general public, winning an additional $10,000 in prizes. And the employee choice winner will be selected by Sampson employees to receive an additional $10,000 in prizes. Judges will name 3 national winners, each of which will earn a prize package worth $100,000.
Wow.
Educators that were supporting the work as well as the scholars, please come forward. I know we have 2 of the educators here.
We're also just, that wasn't in there, but we are, PONUS is the only 2-time state winner in all of Connecticut for middle school.
Move the table.
Awesome, guys.
I don't have to worry about being in the front.
No, we're good.
We're good.
That's the next one.
That's the next
All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Perfect, guys.
So we get to it, right?
So the next spotlight, National Bilingual Multilingual Learner Advocacy Month. To celebrate the rich linguistic diversity that bilingual and multilingual individuals bring to our schools and our community, the Norwalk Board of Education is proud to recognize April as National Bilingual Multilingual Learner Advocacy Month. Norwalk Public Schools welcomed over 300 new multilingual learner students this year, a trend that's not surprising given MLL students are the fastest growing population in public schools across the country. This growth is often fueled by global events, resulting in a student population for us that continues to grow, more diverse and culturally rich. This year marks the 50th anniversary of the landmark Supreme Court decision, Lau visits Nichols, which affirmed the rights of English learners to receive an equal education. As a result of this decision, policies and programs emerged to address the language needs of students across the nation. Our district has taken a proactive approach to accommodate the increase in multilingual learners in our community. One of our key strategies is providing administrators and teachers with quality teaching practices and professional learning opportunities. These sessions are designed to enhance our educators' skills and knowledge in teaching multilingual learners. In addition, we have created an environment for MLL scholars to be integrated into all classrooms. ESL teachers team teach in English language arts classes. This approach ensures that MLLs and all students receive the necessary support and attention they need to succeed. Norwalk Public Schools is also proud to have increased our dual language program offerings to 4 elementary schools and 1 middle school. These programs are available to English learners and our native English-speaking students. These programs facilitate biliteracy in English and Spanish, build strong social connections and cultural awareness. All our students represent the future of Norwalk, and we are responsible for providing the support necessary to ensure each student is prepared for future success after graduation. Knowing multiple languages allows students to build diversity, engage with new cultures, and communicate with a wider community. Being bilingual can build a person's self-esteem to feel comfortable communicating with various people and can be advantageous when they move into the workforce. By declaring April as Bilingual Multilingual Learner Advocacy Month, the Board of Education remains committed to the mission to graduate students who will become productive students, citizens of a global society, and multilingualism is one great skill to ensure that success. Next, we have public comments.
No, we have one more
spotlight.
I'm so sorry. Oh, my goodness. That's okay. I thought back to me. All right, so this is our last spotlight for the evening. It's our fifth spotlight, and it happens to be about 5 Norwalk Public School students who qualified for the Connecticut History Day competition. The Norwalk Board of Education sends the best of luck to 5 middle schools who have qualified to compete at the Connecticut History Day competition on May 4th at Central Connecticut State University. The qualifying students, and if you're here when I say your name, please stand up, and apologies if I mispronounce any names here. The qualifying students finished in the top 4 of the Fairfield County Regional History Day competition on March 2nd. They will compete against the other top finalists at the 4 other regional competitions in the state. Every year, National History Day frames students' research within a historical theme. The theme is chosen for the broad application to world, national, or state history and its relevance to ancient history or to the more recent past. The 2024 theme is Turning Points in History. The qualifying students and the title of their winning presentations are as follows. Ponus Ridge STEAM Academy, Sadaka Ilma. She won first place in the individual website. Won first place in the individual website junior division for her project entitled Invention of the First Personal Computer. Her teacher is Jennifer Nealon.
Is the teacher here?
No. Okay.
West Rocks Middle School, Ruli Stefani Flores Inca. She won second place in the individual exhibit junior division for her project entitled, I'm going to definitely mispronounce this, Tatalako. Can you say it? There you go. The Year of Change. Her teacher is Janine Moulant.
Is the teacher here?
And Roten Middle School had 3 students qualify for the state competition. Their teacher is Laura Zigletti. Elizabeth Smith won honorable mention in the individual exhibit entitled The Manhattan Project, a Turning Point in World History. Summer McDonald won honor mention for her junior paper entitled The Velvet Divorce, How the Peaceful Dissolution of Czechoslovakia Marked a Historical Turning Point. Here, yes. She here? She's okay. And lastly, Ashan Aman won 3rd place for his junior paper entitled The ENIAC, a key turning point in the development of computing devices from the ancient abacus to the modern PC. Wow.
See here?
And that's all the spotlights.
Okay, we've another.
The night of the spotlights.
I thought this first time I've seen this. So.
After we
Let's do this one.
Yep. All right, someone in here. I think.
There we go. All righty. 1, 2, 3. Just keep moving your head. Awesome.
Congratulations.
You have one more, yep.
And we have one more
I have
student.
One more
sorry.
student.
Thank you.
We're gonna bring our PONUS
Oh,
Samsung
fine.
competitors back up. All right.
Why are you not in the? Find the other one.
Sorry, we weren't in there?
I'll
leave it.
So we just like name. Oh, yes.
I think
I'll get it to
Everybody here? Okay. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Great job, guys. All right.
Giving me a hug, like it or not.
Yeah. Eventually you'll get your own. In a couple of years.
Next on the agenda is public comments. We have Mary Jordan. We have 3 minutes to speak. Please state your address.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mary Jordan. I'm at 9 Mott Avenue, Suite 302. What a wonderful evening to have so many young scholars recognized and their programs and entering all the competitions and distinguishing your work. So it's just wonderful. I wanted to comment this evening, you are considering the calendar and we will review it and provide comments at a later time. Dr. Estrella will work with us as she usually does on the calendar. I do want to note that we like the clarity of a single allotment of 2 hours for early dismissals. That's a change that is welcome. We will need a memo of agreement for this and we've agreed to talk about that. Last meeting was a special meeting, there were no comments. I wanted to note that the goals for 2024-2025 school year include various places mention of employee retention, and that is a welcome change. And we invite the attention and scrutiny and hopefully the improvements that will bring. The March 19th meeting included a discussion of cycles of improvement that led teachers to tears in a predictable way with the pressure and scrutiny. And the discussion later occurred between you all about teachers in tears, and it concluded with Superintendent Estrella saying, at the end of the day, thinking about the results we have for our kids, it's worth it. And I don't believe that all teachers agree with that. And so I'm really pleased to see the attention being given to teacher, not just teacher retention, employee retention. We need full staffing. Many teachers are very deeply committed to the work that we do for student success. And we look forward to having relationships of trust and respect. Thank you.
Are there any people online?
Anybody online, please raise your hand if you'd like to make any comments.
That completes our comments. Thank you. So at this moment, I'm going to transfer the meeting over to Dr. Alexandra Estrella for an introduction prior to moving into the superintendent's. Motion to make this introduction. So moved. Seconded by Ashley.
Just because we have school leaders and other staff here, and I want to be cognizant of their time since they've been working really early. We want to propose the approval of one of our MSAP AP assistant principals at Ponas Ridge. Principal Dr. Lewis brought forward a recommendation for a candidate, and I want to ask him to join us for this conversation. I think it would be great. I think you could come just sit at the mic. Thank you. Dr. Lewis, can you speak about the candidate that's being proposed and why she is the right fit for Ponas Ridge?
Yeah, time.
After interviewing her, I know what you mean, but 3 minutes.
Colleen Brosnan has transitioned herself and become an integral part of our community at Ponus Ridge. She's brought a certain amount of cohesiveness to not only our science teachers and our science classes, but also our math classes, while also demonstrating the capacity to pull different disciplines together to form transdisciplinary units around ELA, math, social studies, science, as well as related arts courses. She hosts several POCs during the school day to bring adults together to think about having a growth mindset and pushing things forward, always having that design concept and cross-cutting concepts in mind to make sure all students are exposed to a certain amount of elements in science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. She's been at Ponus for a couple of years, but you would think that she'd been here about 10 years because she's transitioned that well. She has great relationships with staff, with students and community members. She's hosting our STEAM night tomorrow night from 5 to 7 at Ponus Ridge, which is going to highlight some of our student projects, our Verizon lab, and our outside garden if the weather permits. So I fully recommend Colleen Brosnan for this position as the MSAP Assistant Principal at Ponus Ridge Steve McCademy. Thank you.
And can we invite the candidate forward to share a few words?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I'll keep it brief, thanks as well.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. Ponus is an incredibly special place and I'm honored to be a part of it. And I'm just looking forward to bringing so many incredible new opportunities to students and families. So thank you.
That I would love to recommend the candidate for appointment to the MSAP AP position at Ponus Ridge.
Motion to approve. Mary Ellen, seconded by Ashley. All in favor, please say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you. Welcome to here. Welcome to So now we will have the superintendent's report for the evening.
Thank you. So we have a number of items that we want to discuss. One of which is not listed that I would love to amend the topics because I would like to add the draft of the 2025-26 academic school year calendar in draft form for board review. Our goal is for this particular piece for the board to have an opportunity to initiate in this first review of the calendar with the hopes that next month we can engage in final approval. We have engaged NFT in conversation around the calendar as we have historically done so, to make sure that the professional development days as well as half days are dates that we are in agreement and don't create conflicts with other items across the district. One of the things that we have been discussing with school leaders, and this is a point that other bargaining groups have brought to our attention as a concern, is that when we have parent-teacher conference days, those are an hour and a half release time, while our early release days, which are professional development days, coupled in some cases with faculty conferences, are 2-hour release. And it has been creating confusion for families in terms of pickup at the end of the day. So it made sense to just create a uniform time, which is 2 hours across the continuum, to avoid any confusion, because there were issues in elementary school in particular for pickup. So that's something that we're proposing to the board in this calendar modification. In terms of December, if you recall, last year, we didn't have a set half day or early release, sorry, on the day prior to the winter break. But it appeared that all of our neighboring districts did. Typically historically, that was done if the holiday was right after the day that we were engaging in early release. And we discovered particularly for the upcoming school year, 24-25, that we will be honoring that 2-hour early release. We also incorporated in this calendar as well, just to be in unison with all of the neighboring districts. Particularly because many of our staff have children across different districts, and we want to try to stay as close to their calendar as possible. We are proposing for our spring break, the week of the third would be Good Friday, and then spring break would be the week after, from the 6th to the 10th. That is in alignment with some of the districts that have already set out their calendar for 25-26. And this is something for the board to take into consideration as well. And our tentative last day of school would be June 16th.
The other seat, SGC, do they get involved in any of the planning of the calendars at all? Is that, or is it just with the administration and the union officials who are primarily craft the calendar, right?
Correct. But because we have a month grace, if people have questions or concerns, we would listen to their feedback.
Well, it sounds like, you know, the calendar has been discussed in detail with union representation.
And they're still in review, so they just got the first draft, and we will continue the conversation.
The first week in August, or the week of the 18th, so this is different than last year, correct? Because I think this past school year, we had a full week for teachers and students.
We do here too. The kids start August 25th.
Yeah, but it's new teachers first, and then convocation, and then 2 days of professional development, so the kids aren't starting. Oh, I see what you're saying. So that is a full for students.
For students.
For Labor Day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the kindergarten would be the Monday,
Yeah, but
Tuesday, the
Correct, they
alternate.
have their alternating.
Yeah. Go ahead, finish what you.
Well, no, I was just gonna say that I had heard from some teachers and also some families last year that like coming back from the summer and having a full week versus like starting on a Wednesday or a Thursday, like before Labor Day, and letting people kind of like
Ease in.
Yes.
Then we looked at that possibility, but then it pushes the end of the school year. And then we have the challenge of like Juneteenth that falls that Friday. Right now, we have wiggle room we have 2 snow days built in. We have wiggle room for 2 days before it gets very complicated in terms of.
Going too far into June.
Go too
Right.
far into June.
Right, and I think the other thing is, we again have both a week in February and a week in April. Which I think people want,
Correct.
those 2 breaks.
That,
Why we're having to
Correct.
a full week in August.
correct.
A lot of districts have moved away from that February week, but I think it's great that we are keeping it.
Many of the districts in our area still have it.
Okay. The week in April is, I understand why it's bumped up with like Good Friday. It's a little early in April. I feel like the stretch from after that to the end of the year is gonna be feel particularly long.
One of the things that we,
But I get putting it near with Easter.
I mean, one of the things, Passover is Wednesday, of the first.
Okay. I was wondering if that's the first.
Which is another thing that we were looking at, that is, because if we did it that week prior to encompass it, then we have the issue that But it's too early.
But
Yeah.
wasn't it also an issue with sports too? That's why it's falls around that time that you're doing it.
Families didn't want a March break.
Right.
No, I was thinking more like a week or two, like a week later in April.
That hasn't been the pattern because then it's usually, we try to encompass some of the holidays, so we don't
Yeah.
have to add additional days. And then looking at what other neighboring districts have already started to do, that's kind of the week.
Is that the week that other
That's the week that they already.
And if that's what most are looking at, it makes
Yeah.
sense. I know it'll be a long stretch to the end.
Any other questions? So our goal is for the upcoming business meeting in May, to put this into a full board. I don't know, Howard, if you have any questions about the calendar?
No, I don't. Just listening to it, you know, I looked at it. But anything moving forward, we can discuss
Oh, we
that.
can't hear you.
I said, no, not at this time. Anything that, you know, I see, we can discuss at a
It's a
later
lot.
date. But can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Not hearing me?
Hi, Howard, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I heard you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you now.
Okay. No, not at this time. Anything that I see, I was reviewing that, but I just think, you know, we can discuss that later at our
Okay.
next business meeting.
Thank you.
And so the calendar for 24-25 is already,
Has been
was
approved.
approved last spring.
Mhm.
Oh, these dates are.
Yeah.
We're thinking way ahead. Got it.
Yes, way ahead.
Got it.
You good?
All right, thank you. So I'm gonna transition to the next item. Thank you for the feedback thus far, and we look forward to getting more feedback so that we can have the best possible calendar that meets everybody's needs. We have had a lot of success throughout this year and throughout the past several years.
That's
Howard just made it.
Yeah, no. Over the past several years in acquiring grants that have really helped us build programs and kind of fill in the gaps when we have not received, you know, funding to do certain programs and bring in certain resources into the district. And I have invited Ms. Sandra Fayois and her team to speak to some grants just to highlight some of the great work that has happened throughout the district. One of the critical pieces that they have worked on is school-based health centers, and we've worked in partnership with other community agencies to make this possible. This work has allowed us not only to provide quality healthcare to our scholars while they are in our care, but also will eventually also give us the opportunity in this site at the Family Center to provide healthcare to their families as well, which we think is critical and instrumental. And obviously, we constantly talk about we need a village to do the work, and it takes many people within our community to help us do this. And it's taken a village to do this, and we have some incredible partners that Sandra and Jay will speak to today in the context of the work that has happened. And I know we have some people here that are going to join them in the conversation. So I'll turn it over to you guys.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, board, and thank you, Dr. Estrella. Nice to see you all this evening, especially when we're at the tail end of the year and celebrating many things. And this is one of the things that we celebrate, which is our supplemental funding. Ralph will join me shortly, but just to give everybody a recap of where we are at year to date in terms of our grants. Just a reminder for the public of how aggressive we are in actually pursuing grants, that it makes up actually 14% of our total budget. And that is no small feat considering it's a very small team. So we have Nina Laria, who also works with us on the finance side, that is not here this evening, but I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that we do have support. Of course, Lunda Asmani, our CFO, is intimately involved in all our grants. And this is Jeremiah Gerlach, who goes by Jay, who is our grants writer and grant researcher, who we have to thank for the grants that we have actually gotten this school year. So I'll leave it sort of paused on this, just so that you actually have this to look over while I speak. So just as a brief reminder, what we will be talking about today mostly are the grants that aren't necessarily the entitlement grants. So there are different types of grants and different types of, we're calling it supplemental funding because this is not funding that is guaranteed year to year, but it's funding that we go after year, and we were toying with the idea of what to call it. But it really is funding that we use to supplement our programs. So there's entitlement grants. Those are grants that we are more familiar with because we are an alliance district. And so we get certain grants like Title I, Alliance grant, Priority School grant. And these grants are given to us every year. So that's why we call them entitlement grants. What we have to do is make sure that we are writing goals that are aligned to the grants, and then that we are progress monitoring those goals and then reporting that out to the state. So Jay does that a lot with us, but it involves the entire central office community because it's tied to goals that are in the curriculum department, the leadership department, in IT, just various departments, and Jay spearheads that work. But what you see here is just a snippet of where Jay's magic really comes in, which is in actually seeking out grants that we're not necessarily entitled to, but that we are competing for. And those competitive grants are the grants that, these are just a few, but I'll turn it over to Jay just so that he's not just sitting here nodding.
Great.
And he can talk to you about this year, what he's been able to accomplish with it.
And thank you all for having me here tonight. So as Sandra said, I'm Jay Gerlach. I'm the Director of Grants for Norwalk Public Schools. I was a former teacher at Nathan Hale and assumed this role this year. So very excited to be here. So some of the work, as Sandra mentioned, competitive grants are what they are, competitive. We could be upwards competing with 1,000 different school districts, thousands of different school districts. And one I think the major achievement of this year so far is in competitive grants, we have earned $6,380,885, and that's just in competitive funding alone. So that is, I think, a major accomplishment of the team at central office, and it truly does take a village to do this work. So I feel very proud of that. Some of the highlights of those grants are we have $1.8 million in behavioral health funding that we've received competitively. We have arts grants, various arts grants. We have a federal grant with the Marine Science Pathway. We have a Right to Read, a literacy grant that we've received competitively. We have some school safety grants that were very competitive. And then, as we've talked a lot about throughout the year, we have the Magnet School Assistance Program, which is 15 million over the course of 5 years. This year, we received $2,934,000. So it really is an accomplishment of the district as a whole, working together to align our priorities and the leadership who, with you all, who shape our vision for the district. So thank you very much.
One thing that I always want to leave the public knowing is that grants are written for a very specific reason. They have like non-supplanting clauses in them, meaning that we can't just turn people from our operating budget, like a teacher that's been teaching for years at Nathan Hale or at PONUS. We can't all of a sudden just flip that teacher into a grant, because grants are supposed to be that. They're supposed to be supplemental and they're supposed to enhance whatever programming we already have. So oftentimes we try something new, like we do the marine science pathway. But then at the end of that 3 years, the commitment that we're making is that we're then going to assume it in the operating budget. So there's always that double-edged sword that you're getting something, but you're making a commitment that you're then going to sustain it. So grantees and people who have grants that they award, they look at that, like what are our systems that we have in place for them being able to absorb these programs, and what has been our track record in absorbing these programs. Part of what makes us also attractive to people who are giving out grants is our status, our community eligibility provision status, because it means that we as a district are looked at as a free and reduced lunch district. And that's much different than what we were a few years ago. And that's a credit to Dr. Estrella and this board for actually making the commitment to go that route and having us be able to provide free meals for all our families. Not only do they benefit, but then we benefit in these other ways. And with that said, I really wanted to make sure that we leave some time to talk about these various things that we qualify for, and then for Ralph to give us a brief overview of other funding sources that he's in charge of.
Good evening, everybody. One of the things I wanted to start with, though, is just piggybacking on what Sandra was saying. When we talk about partners and philanthropy, which is really where my focus more is around, instead of that traditional grant. One of the ways we're able to get these grants is that we have a very strong strategic plan. And when you look at partners, just like Sandra was talking about, that cohesiveness of like wanting people to be able to invest and so forth, and knowing that how we're going to manage that without a good, strong strategic plan, you can't really deliver that message and follow through. So it's critical that we continue doing the work that we're doing and stuff. And that's a testament to Dr. Estrella and the work that we've been doing over the last couple of years. Along with that, though, I'm going to throw out a little bit more vocabulary too, because when we talk about these grants, sometimes you'll hear us discuss this idea of a difference between what we call direct funding in comparison to indirect funding. So direct funding are funds that actually we receive directly from our partners, and then we pay that piece out. For much of the work that we do, like I said, especially from the state grants, that's all, a lot of times many of those are direct funded to us. But for philanthropy, it's actually usually indirect funding. And this is why the importance of an educational foundation and other partners are so critical to a school system, because in many ways, philanthropy wants to be able to invest in other nonprofits. They may not want to invest into a state or like a city or into a state. They may do that somewhat, but a lot of times they want to be able to see that investment go to a nonprofit to help with that, help with the management of that process. So we do get a lot of indirect funding as well too. And what I wanted to do is just share with you a little bit of what we're doing right now regarding philanthropy. And first of all, our direct funding. In the past year, you can see that we've received direct funds from a lot of our traditional partners, the Dalios, who were with us a few weeks ago. Digital Promise actually has been helping to fund 3 of our middle schools up to this point, and this has been over a number of years. The Grossman Family Foundation with our research and evaluation programs. The Heidenreichs actually helped to fund our marine science program that we have in marine, the high school marine Academy. And the Ritter Family Foundation has also been helping to fund our Odyssey PK. So all those different pieces are key. And you can see that over the next couple of years, even though these will grow, we do have commitments already for this upcoming year from some of our philanthropic partners, as well as into the next few years. So we do continue, like I said, this is part of knowing that we have a strategic plan, knowing that we have goals that we're trying to meet. They're able to commit to be able to moving us forward. So that with that, I don't know if anybody has any questions on how direct funding works and how our direct funding works.
I think one of the things that we can also add is those that are not in terms of actual dollars, but actual tools, like with Digital Promise, we.
Can I get there?
Oh.
Yeah.
So just continuing on from that last sentence, Dr. Estrella.
Precisely.
Yes, exactly. We do get a lot of services and resources through indirect funding. And here I just wanted to highlight a few of those examples that we received in this past year with those. One of our strongest partners is the Carver Family Foundation. We do invest part of our budget into helping support the Carver, probably a little over $1 million. But they raise $6 million. And that's a low estimate of how much they give us to our school system every year on a regular basis. So that indirect funding goes to the Carver, but it actually pays our teachers to be able to continue working with our students through that partnership. So it's really critical for us to offer that before and after school support. Another example of that is Mid-Fairfield Community Care Center. So the work that we do with Mid-Fairfield, a lot of they receive federal funding to support Newark Public Schools directly. They also receive it through some of our funders, like one in particular is the Grossman Family Foundation that helps to fund Mid-Fairfield to be able to support us. So they actually then give us the resources. And then finally, if we were going to add up the services that we receive right now from Verizon and Digital Promise, as Dr. Estrella was mentioning, this year we're going to be receiving, and we were able to cut down our capital ask for student computers. The amount of computers that we're receiving, though, along with the internet access, which is 5G access for every single one of those machines, and our teachers, by the way, as well, equates to approximately a little over $3.5 million when we really look at the amount of computers that we're receiving, as well as the internet access. So those are services and resources that we receive on a regular basis. And these are just three of the bigger examples of how we get these. I wouldn't call it in kind, but it's actually partnership programs that work well with us.
And I think before we transition, there's another bullet here for our Community Health Center, because that's going to be us going more in depth into something that's kind of like an indirect service that's challenging to quantify. And I have somebody here, I have Rebecca here that's actually going to take us through some of those services. But I wanted to make sure that there were no questions just so far in what Ralph or Dr. Estrella, did we cover what you, okay. Yes, of course.
Sandra, you mentioned before, part of how we get the grants depend on, you've explained this a few times, so I think I'm getting it now, that we get some of these grants to get us going.
Yes.
For a period of years, with the hope that then we will embrace the idea and actually support it. Am I following? Then it would come out, eventually it would come out of our budget.
Well, the hope to support it is there. I think when we go out for a grant, it has to align to our strategic priorities. It has to actually align. So we wouldn't go for a grant that we would not support. Like, I mean, I can't think of a bad example, but.
So here's that's my question. Okay, my question is, when they're looking at what we would support, how have we done? How have we done? Have we had grants and then they look back on it 2 or 3 years later, the grant's over and that program is still going? Or
Yes.
How have we done? Could you give
So,
some examples?
Yeah, I could give you an example using the school safety because it's super concrete.
Good.
Okay, so for instance, and sometimes it's kind of like, if there's a grant out there, do we go after it? We may not, because we don't have the proper infrastructure to support it. But if we know that we need funding for something, we say, well, we have to go seek a grant, or there's a grant out there. And that's some of what, and please chime in, Jay. That's some of what we do. So for school safety grants were being floated through the state. Dr. Estrella would get some notices. It happened to coincide with us also having part of our strategic plan, and part of our goals were to increase communication, increase our infrastructure in school safety, and then increase preparedness. So then when we go and actually apply for the grant, we can tell them we are already aligned. These are part of our goals. We as a district are positioned to be able to actually utilize this funding, put it into our schools, and then we are able to actually document for you how the funds were being used and what the impact is. And so then when you make those commitments, we are now in the process of actually implementing that. We then have to report out on how did we do, and that's typically a financial report accompanied with a narrative. But it's not like in 5 years, those same grant people are gonna come back, because whatever we're doing is going to already be assumed into our daily operations.
So they're not going, I'm
But
thinking of
something more,
future
but something,
grants might
so something
look at.
more like that would be like the marine science pathway. But the marine science pathway, the way that we were competitive for it, it's because our district already had made a commitment to school choice.
Yes.
In school choice, one of the pathways is to make sure that we increase our STEM offerings. One of the STEM offerings is this marine science pathway. We now have a K through 12 pathway. The high school pathway was already there in existence, and now we're saying, give us money so we could do the middle school and the elementary school. And so something like that, they could see that we're already have the structures in place to be able to
And that
maintain
makes us
it.
attractive.
That makes us attractive for them. Go ahead.
Yeah, and that's actually the same
Thank
thing
you.
with philanthropy.
Thank you for
Correct.
clarifying.
Yeah. because
It's the same thing.
If
Yeah.
you've seen like those commitments that you just saw for the next 3 years, both of those grants actually end this year. We've been working with those
Yeah.
two partners for 3 years. They've committed out for the next 3 years because they saw our strategic plan.
Mm-hmm.
We've been reporting on the progress. They see the progress going. And in one case, Verizon, they want to scale what
Wow.
we're doing.
Yeah.
In the other case, they know that, and this is really with our research and analytics program, they see actually what we're doing. They know that we still, we've been absorbing it, but we're still growing, and they see the work happening, so they want to continue to invest. Because, Novelette taught me this a long time ago. It's like success is what brings investors to the table.
Yeah.
So, and that's one thing that we're starting to see here.
Let's.
So in essence, that's the way that they monitor that their investment is actually going towards what they've committed. Because all these foundations and all of these grant folks, they have people also that make sure that that money is being properly utilized. So they also have to make sure that their funding is not set to be going towards this pathway, but instead we're using it, to balance the budget. Right, so that's the thing, like you have to honor what the grant language is saying.
Right.
Which is one of the things that's always a challenge when we're engaging in our budget conversations,
Yes.
right? That there's a misunderstanding that substitution is allowed.
That you can take that grant
Correct.
money and put it into
Correct,
another.
which is
column,
not-
And we can't
It's
do that.
supposed to enhance, not supplement, and sometimes it's hard when we're engaging in budget conversations to have people who do understand the logistics behind some of the strings attached to some of the funding that we get for specific initiatives and how they cannot be combined within the operating budget in the same way that other funding might be.
So to that point, is it true that the city takes a percentage away from us when you get X amount of grants? They don't do that, right?
No.
Okay. The other thing I was gonna ask, with the indirect funding, some of that is probably technical assistance or in kind? Or that doesn't?
Oh, with the indirect?
With the indirect.
Oh, yeah, I mean, the reason why I invited Nora Community Health Center
Right.
here is so that you can,
Right.
like, the in-kind
Right.
is invaluable, like, you
Right.
can't even like measure how much of that organization ends up getting dedicated to our students and to our goals. I was actually trying to quantify it on this, and I just said, I really can't. You can't quantify what that means to be able to see patients and.
And some of the other grants that you get, like, are either state or federal, like the behavioral one, is that like from Demas or something? Does that come from?
No, the behavioral was from Congressman Hines.
Oh, really? Okay. And some of the other, there was a read.
Right to read.
So is that like from the Department of Education?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, they're from, federal.
Yeah, there's this wonderful website called grants.gov.
Right.
And any given day,
Yeah.
there's up to 50,000 different grants on there. And you have to mine through it, right? Because we always start with the strategic plan and the values of this district. We would never put something in that didn't align with what and who we value.
And I think that, like, to that point, one of the things that I have to commend Ralph and his team in helping with the philanthropic work. We have been able to realign the focus of our partners through our strategic plan, having them see what our goals and priorities are, and helping them understand that their support needs to align to our priorities, not the other way around. And that has been instrumental in us streamlining resources that help refine and further support the priorities that we had set in our strategic plan.
But it's also very impressive because you said it's competitive grants.
Mhm.
So all of these grants show what NPS has been doing, show the work that's being done for us to be able to get these grants. And, I think people also think that you're just filling out an application, sending you and putting a stamp on it and going. But the work and the hours that are committed to this, I mean, I alone had to be interviewed just being chair of the board for a grant that took like 3 days and I don't know how many hours. And I was sweating because I was like, what if I answered something wrong? But no, thank you and kudos to the whole team because this takes a lot of work.
And before I transition to our community health center, I want to say that there are grants that are not here that the city applies alongside us. So those tend to be facilities grants. Another one, speaking of taking a long time, it's like the HVAC grants, the city actually put in on our behalf, alongside with Nina and other people. And that's, that's a $35 million ask is what we're asking for. That grant took, I think, that whole process took 6 months to complete those applications.
Have we heard about that yet?
Still
Not yet.
So we'll see. But there are some other pieces of funding that we've been able to partner with the city on. Those opportunities don't come up often, but it's really important for people that are giving grants. And you could talk about this for the philanthropic support also, that we're in alignment with the city and that we're all working together on certain aspects of how to improve the conditions for our families and for our students.
Yeah.
And that's certainly impressive if we are working together. That was part of the efficiency study urging us to collaborate more. And was that 3 years ago that we had that? And you see that happening.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
And we
it's,
still use that document to inform our work.
yes. And from the philanthropics, it's really important that if people want to become regular investors in a community, they want to know the community is connected. So they actually want to see the city and the Board of Ed working together. And that actually assists in us making sure that we're all in alignment and that we know that those dollars will be going in the right place. So.
Thank you. Rebecca, do you want to join? Yeah. Okay. And so then with Rebecca, I want to tee up our partnership with Nora Community Health Center. And the reason why it makes sense to do this today, it's because although the relationship started a long time ago, and I'll cue a few people who are waiting to speak in a bit, but it actually what got us started with this piece, which is the school-based health centers, came from a grant.
Yeah.
So you see that we're making all those connections. Yeah. But it came from a grant. And oftentimes what will happen is we'll get information about a grant, but we don't qualify as the applicant. The Maritime is another good example of that. So sometimes we will learn of a grant, but we don't qualify as an applicant. So then we'll seek out a partner and we'll say, would you like to pursue this grant with us? And then that we sort of like work together to pursue the grant. The grant that initially started with Nora Community Health Center, we had approached them even before the RFP process came out, thinking that we would want to, at some point, join in this capacity. But I'm going to let Rebecca introduce herself, and then I'm going to ask Joanne Malinowski and Jennifer Rawlinson if they want to say a few words, because they could talk to us about the history of the relationship between us and Nora Community Health Center. Do I need this, Mike?
No.
Oh. Then we need it. Okay.
So just want to say thank you to the board, thank you, Dr. Estrella and Sandra, for inviting me tonight to speak. So my name is Rebecca Kaplan. I'm a nurse practitioner, and I'm also the director of clinical operations and healthcare innovation. And one of the things that I do is grant writing for North Community Health Center. And one of the projects that I've worked on is a school-based health and wellness application. And what made it such a strong application and competitive was that we received a letter of support from Dr. Estrella and North Public Schools to allow us to put in an application that we were awarded. And that let us open 2 school-based health and wellness centers, one in Bryan McMahon that serves both the students of McMahon and CGS, and one in Ponus. And Ponus was so on the agenda today. I was so happy to see Evan and Dr. Lewis, and that also serves the students of CMS.
But before, Joanne, are you on?
She was on.
She was.
Yeah. And if she doesn't mention it.
Jennifer.
I can. Or Jennifer, do you guys want to talk about the history with Nora Community Health Center?
Sure, I'd love to. Thank you. So Nora Community Health Center has really been a partner with us for years. And really it started back in 2020 during COVID, when we essentially lost the majority of our community partners. We didn't have resources for students, for medical care, for vaccinations, for childhood vaccinations. And so we looked to NCHC to collaborate. And they were our only partner at that time. Many of you may recall when they had the mobile medical units going out to the schools to provide COVID vaccinations. And they were also on the forefront, excuse me. They were also on the forefront of recognizing the need for mental health resources. And so they had essentially created a program to offer mental health services for students remotely. So that was really critical and essential at that time, given the limitations to access this important intervention. So for many years at this point, they have been critical partners with us, providing services, mental health services, physical health services, and providing a medical home for students that may be without that medical home. So, and like they had said, they're very innovative, coming out with different services that can be provided. And we're very excited for the Family Center to be opening their health services. So with that said, we look forward to the presentation from Rebecca.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So a couple of years ago, we had to put out an RFP for additional school-based health centers. And we were happy to have Nora Community Health Center actually put out an RFP. It was very competitive. They got the RFP. And this is how we landed here today because of the grant funding and them actually getting awarded the RFP.
Great.
Oh, okay.
So I just want to also tail off of some of the conversation related to grants. Grants really do allow for us to be innovative in our approaches. So most school-based health centers are called school-based health centers. And I said, okay, let's be innovative about it. Let's say school-based health and wellness centers, because we're a wellness center. We're fully integrated care for medical and behavioral health right there inside the school. So our goal going into it with strategic plan and just sort of aligning with what are our goals going into this. So we want to increase access to comprehensive integrated care regardless of ability to pay to all students. Improve the social emotional wellness of the students, because you'll hear a lot of social emotional wellness language in school-based health, and fill a gap for students in access to care and improve health outcomes of the students. And one of the things that I am very big on is making sure that we are creating a best practice model that will get nationally recognized, because Newark Community Health Center has been nationally recognized for centers of excellence by the federal government. I am doing a poster presentation in DC on our school-based health and wellness program in June. So our ribbon cutting ceremony, we had a lot of our federal delegation because it was both federal and state funding that allowed us to open. So, research across the country shows that school-based health centers help improve students' academic achievement by keeping students in school and addressing health and mental health needs that can make learning difficult and build youth leadership. So one arm of the future thought of the school-based health and wellness program is to really cultivate interest in the medical field, whether behavioral or mental health, and potentially train the next generation, which I know that's something Dr. Estrella is also passionate about. So that's something that's definitely on our minds, and we've communicated about that, and potentially using something like the Family Center to build that out. I also heard conversation about teacher burnout and strain and the administrative burden, and we are there as a resource. Time and time again, teachers will come over, and if it's a consented student, we have the fluidity to be able to talk about someone, and then we just scoop them right up and we link them to resources. So I also had received an email from a special ed teacher at PONUS, and I just wanted to read it to just bring it to light about the impact that we've had so far. So my name is Morgan Delbene, and I'm a special education teacher at PONUS Ridge STEM Academy. I've been teaching this program for 6 years come April, and she runs a life skills program now called STARS. My students' lives have already been positively affected by these two wonderful women talking about the staff at the school-based health center. They follow through, take action, always find me the answer I need in order to help a child or their family. I cannot sing their praises enough and would love to tell you more. I'm forever grateful that they're with us. I also have a testimonial from a student receiving behavioral health services at McMahon. She wanted to remain anonymous, but she wrote, I'm receiving support with my mental health because I have a lot of problems with my family. At school with my insecurities, and I have therapy once a week at Bryan McMahon High School. I feel very happy since I have started therapy because I feel much better. They supported me a lot by giving me advice, listening to me without judging. I am having one of the best experiences. My grades have improved greatly, my communication skills. I'm very grateful for having the opportunity to have therapy at school because my situation is very complicated, including issues of safety. Also, my mother doesn't have much time. She can't travel to the community center. So that just sort of brings it into real life, the impact that we're seeing on a daily basis. And to date, we've seen 1,043 visits between the two sites from when we started in August of 2023. We started with medical mobile unit outside of the schools, rotating until we were fully licensed to be able to open within the schools. We're also providing therapy services when schools are closed. My therapists are connecting with the students at home. And during the summer, we're staying open within the buildings, and I'm deploying my teams. So our service offerings is really a whole patient-centered care that's fully integrated within the schools. We are nationally recognized in the top 10th percentile quality amongst school-based federally qualified health centers. So that's what we use on a daily basis to really drive our programs and meet the needs of the students on a daily basis. And the providers and the team that I have deployed within the schools are extremely passionate about what they do. So I hope I tied everything in with the grants and the impact that we're having.
Yeah, I think two things that I want to add, the telehealth services that started in the midst of the pandemic and how important those have been to support families at home and provide out of school care. So thank you for that. Also, the mobile clinic supports the family center and has been, particularly during those peak months during enrollment where we need students to obtain their physicals and they might not have the means or resources to do so. And you have been incredible partners in helping us facilitate that while we get to the point of having a center here. So thank you for that. And I think it's important to highlight those two things as well.
Dr. Sayer, do you want to elaborate further on the family center and the vision for that?
So one of the things that we had envisioned when we talked about creating a family center was having a place where we provided wraparound services. Not only services that will connect families with resources and also a place for further educating our families of what is available within our school district, but also connecting them to city resources as well as health care where needed. Particularly because when I started in Norwalk, one of the things that the board at the time spoke a lot about was the challenges in getting kids started at the start of the year because of physicals not being able to be done timely because there was an oversaturation in the system. So when we thought about the family center and we engaged in conversations with Norwalk Community Health Center, one of the things that was at top of mind is finding ways in which we could provide these services to families so that when they came here, similarly to special education services, language services, that they could also get the healthcare services that they needed in one place. And I'm really excited to say that we will be opening a health clinic here that will not only serve the students, but also families, the families of our students as well. And I think that that's a huge accomplishment, particularly because we know we have so many families that need healthcare. We've also been talking about vision and dental as one of our future plans to also offer, because we know that that's an incredible need in the community. So I'm really excited about continuing this venture and finding resources to do that as well.
Is there a date for when that'll open here?
Our goal, go ahead.
Our goal.
Oh, that's okay. The goal is to be open for like when we see the peak enrollment, which is like July.
Of the summer.
Yeah, the summer. Since we're here, you're welcome to do a tour
Of the
after
construction.
the construction site. But it's right downstairs.
So I think that as we spoke about the family center, that was one of the key things and that we wanted to envision to bring everything that all the services we wanted to have here available. So we're very close to kind of bringing all of the wraparound services to this center. And as you saw downstairs, we were highlighted in the press also for providing language services for families here as well. And that has also been a huge success. So all of these pieces that we worked really hard and advocated for to bring together are happening thanks to partners like Norwalk Community Health Center.
Yeah. So that's so it's nice because this was the final piece.
To find it together.
I had a question. Are the teachers in those schools able to use the health center? Like if they have a scratchy throat, can they go get a strep test? Or
Right, good
their flu
question.
shot in the fall?
So we really wanted to make sure primarily we were serving the students. So we don't want to limit access, especially we have one examination room at PONUS. So we didn't ever want to say to a student, we can't see you because someone else is using it. So not at this point in time. Yeah.
You know, a lot of the kids that you're seeing probably don't have health insurance either, right?
Well, Connecticut's going through a Medicaid expansion. So there's legislation. I sit on the board of directors for the state of Connecticut school-based health centers. And we are putting together testimony to get it up to the age of 21. And once that happens, we see the patient regardless. the scholar patients, regardless of the ability to pay, everything's written off because we're grant funded. But once the Medicaid expansion goes through, it makes everything much easier.
Yeah, but it's not a burden on the family to have to figure that out.
They will not get a bill
Yeah.
for any services rendered.
So I support a lot of people.
And we also implemented eligibility specialists within the team at the school, so the parents can actually get insurance when they can meet their kid at school, after school, and get enrolled in Medicaid.
Till we get universal health care.
That's right.
Girl, this is my.
That's right.
And I think taking on, one of the things also, like, it reduces attendance challenges.
Exactly.
Students are not going to school because they have an appointment, they can get all the services at the school. Some of our families are really limited.
Howard has a comment.
Howard.
So he
came
off mute, Jess.
Okay, in terms of their ability to take time off from work, it also helps families in that way. I think Howard. Howard.
Hi. So, question, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Question I have, do you see your number increasing for the sports and recreation piece of it? Because I know a former coach, it has always been an issue when it comes to physicals for players. And have your numbers increased over the years, this year, as far as working with our students?
So I am very familiar with the athletic director at the high school. Because we've got the tryout dates for the next year because there is that rush. And so we're trying to send additional providers to the school to make sure these kids can try out. So we understand the impact that physical activity has on mental health and also just physical health. So we want these kids to do their tryouts and get into sports. So yes, we see the rush. We're better prepared for it next year, but we saw all the kids and cleared them for the most part. But interestingly enough, the school-based health centers are much more effective in catching kids who have abnormalities that would prevent them from going to school. From trying out. It's a much more thorough exam because we have more time to see the kids.
Right.
So it's actually a much more safe environment to be doing the clearance. Yeah,
That's great.
Statistics.
Great.
That show that.
Yeah.
Thank
and
you.
we'll be there through the summer too, so.
Do parents have to give permission for their?
Yes,
Right?
yes, so there is a consent form process, which sometimes, the elementary school, it's much easier. Parents are excited. They're like, what? You can pull my kid from class and do their vaccines and physical and call me before and after? This is amazing. The high school tends to be a little bit more challenging to actually get the paperwork back. So we're looking at doing a consent for the lifetime of the student because one of the beautiful things of our program is that PONUS feeds into McMahon. So essentially, if we can catch the kid at PONUS and get the consent there, they could essentially be consented for services through the rest of their schooling. And we don't have to do it back and forth, make sure we get consent.
Because right now, are they set for the whole time they're at that one school or just?
It's a 2-year consent and we monitor the time and then make sure that we're getting it.
I clearly paid attention when I filled it out for my child. So will they be able to do flu shots and things in the fall?
Yeah, so we'll do clinics, we'll do,
And are there any plans to install these health centers in any other of our campuses?
So yes. But it depends on space. So there are some space limitations at some sites. So for instance, I don't want to put any names out there because then I don't want people to be disappointed. But we do have to consider that the site actually can accommodate a school-based health center. And there are, specifications that we have to meet, like, you need a separate room for exam, you need a room for people to wait in, you need access to water, like you need all these different things. And there are some sites that because they're so crowded with classrooms, that we wouldn't be able to give up a classroom. But we do have our next site, we have our eyes on the next grant and the next site, and that's in the works right now. And actually, we're in the process of completing that application right now.
Right.
And it's a K through 5, pre-K through 5.
Yeah.
So we're excited about that.
Maybe
Yes.
another clinic like what you have, because you guys are booked. I hear.
Oh, yeah. Well, nationally, we know that there's a healthcare shortage and access, is a problem. thankfully, North Community Health Center is excellent at retaining our providers, which is really a testament to our CEO. And so we are building a team, but school-based health and being able to add, because our brick and mortar is at capacity as well.
Exactly. But like, for
Um,
instance, like you don't have to be a PONUS student to be seen at PONUS.
Right.
So that's part of the
Yes.
word that we have to get out to parents.
Right.
You know, it's more challenging because of the hours, but that's something that we've been working on also. Or to go to McMahon, or to go during the summer. So any NPS student
Can access.
But this will be, the one here at the Family Center will make a huge difference because it'll be
Yes.
more central to, you know, the whole community.
So I'm delighted at your language of deploying your people to places, you know, you're just taking charge and helping us out. I'm wondering how many new people you have had to get to meet our needs.
Yeah.
And how you mentioned they're all really passionate and 100% there. How did you do that?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because on the grant meetings that I have, because we have to report out and how are we just sustaining our model and retaining our staff, and a lot of other FQHCs are having challenges with recruiting staff. I would have to say, because of our reputation, a lot of the recruitment that we get is word of mouth. So the actual team that's deployed to each school, which we're looking to grow, is a medical provider, to the nurse practitioner, physician's assistant, medical assistant who's cross-trained in eligibility, and also does like the secretarial function with answering the phones and faxes, and then a LCSW, a licensed clinical social worker, and most of my staff's bilingual. So it's challenging. And we haven't had an issue yet. I actually have like a lot of pending applications for any future ones that are opening, because people, the word gets out. And we have an innovative model. I'm a provider who also is the administrator of the program, so I understand the roles, and we are flexible to meet the needs of the school, which I think helps.
Well, I commend your leadership.
Thank you.
It's wonderful, and we are benefiting.
Oh, well, so
That's
back to the beginning of the
Yeah.
presentation, which is sort of like these types of partnerships and how, you know, how they also add to what we're able to provide our community, and it stems from our partners seeking grants, and we benefit from it.
And back to our strategic plan.
And back to our strategic, yeah, yes.
I'll say, like, as a parent, it's awesome. I mean, we haven't needed, my kiddo goes to CMS.
Yeah.
And so is enrolled. And like the first week that it opened, they made a point of bringing every kid.
Yep.
Just like meet and greet. And I wanted to chat with them on the phone before that, and they were so welcoming, responsive. And the day that my kid came home just so happy and just knows where it is now. And so it's
Thank you.
really, really awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Okay, great. If you don't have any questions, that's all we have for you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So that just kind of gives the board a glance of how grants really support our work, how they also help in partnership with other local agencies to really build and enhance what we have set as our strategic priorities within our strategic plan, to do the work that for our scholars and support our staff in doing things most effectively for them. So this hopefully gives you some insight, but also I think the public has an opportunity to see how much the cabinet and their teams are working really hard to bring in additional resources, and that we don't only rely on our operating budget to really provide the services for our children and families. The second thing that I would like to discuss today is around our college fair, but most importantly, our post-secondary advisors and the value added that they provide our two high school campuses. And I say two high school campuses because we have one in each campus, and they support the students in both schools at each site. We have approximately 4,044 high school students. And we have 2 post-secondary advisors. Yet they have been doing some phenomenal work despite their 1 to 2,022 students ratio. And I need to like preface that because when we look at private schools and other institutions, they have many more post-secondary advisors. When you look at the student to the advisor to student ratio. And although we would love to increase the number of advisors that we have within our schools, as you know, we are in a very challenging budgetary situation right now as we're planning the 2025 fiscal year. So we're very limited in terms of what we can do. But I think it's important to highlight the incredible work that is happening despite the fact that they have to service such a large number of scholars. And it gives the board kind of like, imagine if we had more, what more we could do for scholars to really prepare them for their post-secondary work. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Rob Pennington and Carol to kind of lead us through this conversation.
Good evening, members of the board. We think it's important, as Dr. Estrella just mentioned, we've talked about our counselors and the amazing work that they're doing, but we really haven't highlighted the work of our college and career specialists. And as Dr. Estrella said, we have 2, one at each of our campuses, and the work that they do around our post-secondary work, around supporting students with applications, around FAFSA support is second to none. And at the same point, they're going to come and talk a little bit about our upcoming college fair that they organize and plan to put on for. I was talking to Dr. Sullivan, and last year they had over 600 people attend and over 80 colleges come. And so they'll talk a little bit about that tonight. I'm going to turn it over to Carol.
Good evening, Board of Education, Dr. Shea. Thank you for having me. I'm Carol Wilshire-Toth, Education Administrator for Workforce Development and School Counseling. And I am thrilled to be here this evening to talk about our college and career specialists. It's really exciting to highlight their work. They work so very hard, and just to be able to talk about their role this evening with you is very, very exciting. So as Mr. Pennington mentioned, we have over at Norwalk High School and P-TECH our college and career specialist, Miss Reed, who supports and works and is embedded in that career center from a structural perspective. That is where she works, that is her home, and that's where she services her scholars and her families as well, and also supports the staff. On the other side of town, we have Miss Green. She's at Brian McMahon High School, also Center for Global Studies, also embedded in the Career Center, supporting scholars and families, and also staff as well. It's really important to know that a lot of their work is grounded in what I would call initiative work. So the work is not only proactive in initiative based on time of year and quarter during the year in terms of the things that they work on, which I will speak to in a few minutes, but it's also a concierge style. And what I mean by that is that they meet students where they are based on what their needs are and where the students need to go on their journey. And so that's very, very important. So we did briefly touch upon their caseload, which is an amazing feat for them to have such large caseloads. But they also support the work of our building leaders with initiatives in the building. And they also are very supportive partners with our school counseling teams as well. So when we think about the things they do a lot of things that are very similar between both campuses, and I'm going to touch on some of them today. Please know that the things I'm mentioning, there are far more than I could possibly mention this evening that they do, because when you're in a high school and you have the excitement of being in the high school and that energy, when you go into our career centers in both campuses, you can feel the excitement. And I often refer to them as the heartbeat of the career center. They are like ground operations, like air traffic controllers, and they orchestrate the career centers and they really work very, very hard within their roles. Some of the things they do primarily is they look at post-secondary planning from a perspective of what do our scholars want to do during their journey and beyond. And so we're no longer looking at 4-year and 2-year in terms of a scholar's journey. We're looking at military service, gap year, workforce development. We're looking at going into the trades, having apprenticeships. And so our college and career specialists must be so well-rounded in all of these specific areas to be able to meet our scholars' needs. And they really, really do. Within the career centers, there's so much going on. There's a buzz there. They do workforce development workshops in the career centers that are tailored to 9th and 10th grade scholars and also 11th and 12th grade. So we're talking about capstone experience, volunteer opportunities, job opportunities. They also support in their work with the junior and senior surveys as well. And this is just to name a few. We mentioned the FAFSA initiatives as well, ensuring scholars are doing the right things to get them set up for the future that our scholars are choosing to have and the directions in which that they want to go. Also, too, they may do push-in lessons in a classroom from a proactive programming standpoint of Naviance lessons, for example. They do a lot of work with scholarships. And again, this is just to name a few, and I've created a word cloud to kind of just capture many of the things that they are doing in the Career Center. Another thing that they do also are get our scholars ready for job opportunities. We, through workforce development, we bring in opportunities, job opportunities. They have mock interviews, real interviews. So there's a real world presence happening in the career centers in real time that are very impactful for our scholars. And that's very exciting as well. So I've taken a few minutes to talk about the role of our college and career specialists. But now I'd like to capture the essence of who they are and who they are as professionals and personally working with our scholars, our families, and supporting our staffs. So for Ms. Reed, for her work, one of her most rewarding aspects of her role is the ability to be a change agent in the lives of students and their families. And again, she works with us over at Norwalk High School and PTAC in the Career Center. When we look to our scholars and connect with them to get their feedback about what their experience is like working with Ms. Reed, we have Natalie, a Norwalk High scholar, who has said that the Career Center is a very helpful place where Ms. Reed supports me with my future educational plans. And we also have Charlie from PTAC Norwalk, and he says, Ms. Reed is the best, exclamation point. She helped me understand the process to apply for financial aid in the future. And that's just a snapshot of the work. And I wish I had more time to really, bring to life the work that they do, but we're gonna talk more about that in a moment when they talk about the district-wide college fair that is coming up. So when we go now across town to Brian McMahon and Center for Global Studies, we're looking at Ms. Green's work in the Career Center. And for her role, it's very important to her because post-secondary access opens doors to opportunities, empowering students to pursue their passions and unlock their potential and contribute meaningfully to society, no matter which pathway they choose. And when we connected with her scholars, Rosalba from Brian McMahon had to say that Miss Green is highly committed professional. She has a focus on teamwork and problem solving. And Dinyar from Center for Global Studies has shared with us that Miss Green was very helpful with the different components of the college process. She made him aware of important financial aid deadlines, organized several college and admissions visits to our high schools. So if you were to take a visit, and when you take a visit over to the Career Center, you are going to see them planning, building relationships, programming, coordinating, organizing, all the things that really support our scholars in their endeavors within the Career Center. They're able to pivot, they're able to meet our students where they are, and it's actually a very exciting place to visit, and it's a very exciting place to be. They're able to pivot, they're able to work so well with our building leadership staff as well as our school counseling staff and provide wonderful supports as well.
All right, so we're going to invite Dr. Sullivan and Ms. Reed to come up and talk a little bit about our upcoming college fair that is going to be happening this week. Come on. So you have.
Yeah. Good evening, board. Thank you. And thank you for your commitment and support to the students and families of Norwalk. I know it's a big commitment, so we thank you. And I think Carol said it beautifully. We're very fortunate to have Ms. Reed and her counterpart across town, Ms. Green, in this role. She's really transformed, or they have transformed our career center into a vibrant, impactful place, you know, and like Carol said, it's always buzzing with activity and exciting. And every day she comes in with a different idea. Hey, what about this? How about doing this with first gen kids freshman year? How do we weave that in? And it sort of, I think, aligns with the theme tonight about partnerships. She's also working closely with our community partners, and our philosophy has always been, if you can help our kids, come on in, let's work together and make it happen. And Sharita is a testament to that. Additionally, she was also recognized recently by her peers as a staff member of the month at Norwalk High School. So kudos to her. And once again, only in her third year, she's done terrific things. And we have a busy May coming up, and the next thing that we have on the docket is our the 38th annual College and Career Fair at Norwalk High School. We've had it at both buildings, Norwalk High, P-Tech, and then previously it's been at McMahon and CGS as well. So we're expecting close to 80 or above 80 colleges again this year, and it's been a wonderful tradition in Norwalk, and it's great to see our students and families. Even our ninth graders now are starting to come out and get some early college awareness as well. So, anything to say about the schools?
Well, first, thank you all for the opportunity to be here this evening. It is a tremendous pleasure to be able to converse with you all. We are excited to be offering our 38th annual district-wide college fair this year. I'm proud to say that last year was the first year that it was hosted at Norwalk High, and it was tremendously successful. We had over 80 colleges attend and well over 600 students and families in attendance. And that just really speaks to the importance of partnership. Many moving parts in this process in terms of planning and implementing. And so that night was a success, and we're looking forward to our college fair, which will be at Norwalk High this year as well on May 1st, which is next week, Wednesday. So please, if your schedule permits, you are all welcome to attend. We're trusting that it will be incredibly successful as well. A great opportunity for all age groups, grade levels to come out, interact with different colleges and universities, as well as other partners that assist with the college application process, to see what their options are, have dialogue about what is available to students to facilitate their post-secondary journey.
And I just want to convey that I had been a long time school counselor prior to my current role, and I've seen the development of this program. Previously, we didn't have this provision, and we would fill the career center with interns, or we try to get a counselor in for an hour here, or try to piece it together to serve our kids. So it's really been a wonderful addition to our community. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Carol Wilshire-Toth for her work and her leadership and tutelage in helping develop these programs. So.
And I just have to say that as a parent last year, I had the honor of participating in your fair, and I think Carol was at that fair. We were there together. And it was really impressive to see the number of colleges that were there, the excitement in the room, and how families navigated the space in a very productive way. So kudos to all of you and the work that you have been doing to put that together.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking about that last year when I was there with my then junior, now senior P-Tech senior son. And I was so engrossed in conversations and everything that was going on. And I completely forgot I had to jump on a facilities call and run it. And you came running over, Kara, what are you doing here? I was like, I'm looking at content. Like, no, you're late. So that was a funny memory, but yeah, it was really engaging. Very exciting.
Almost have satellite office.
It was my car. In the parking lot. Sandra remembers.
I do.
Well, I wasn't last year, but I was years before, but you know, I always remind staff to be that one person that the child's going to remember, that they had someone at school that believed in them. And it's people like you that these children remember because you make it fun, you give them the information that they need. They know who to go to without being scared or nervous. You have the information that some of these families in this country don't know, don't have it, don't speak the language. And you guys are the people that are giving, you know, these first steps to our children. And I'm gonna say it right here in front of everybody. My son always goes to visit Carol because that's who he remembers, right? That's who helped him. And I'm very grateful to her. So I know that families are very grateful for you guys for all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, that piece, unless the board has any other questions, kind of highlights the value added that our post-secondary advisors have within our system. We need more, and it's something that we hopefully within the next 2 years, we're hoping to increase if we can get the funding to do so. Because I think it's instrumental that we have staff that is designated to really support students and navigate the post-secondary process, whether it's from high school to straight to career or from high school to college. We want to make sure that through the facilitated support of the counselors, that the post-secondary advisors can also help our families and students navigate this process. We want to start as early as 9th grade, but in order to do that, we need additional personnel to do that work. Yeah, the people that we have are doing quite phenomenal work, so I thought it was important to highlight. To close the superintendent report, I just want to highlight and thank the board for a really productive special meeting where we talked about the 24-25 draft goals and our vision forward. Your feedback was really instrumental in helping us shape the work, and I know we have a session coming up in the next few days or weeks now to look at a final draft of the goals that will really help us facilitate and navigate the work forward. I also want to take a moment to clarify how I was misquoted earlier, where it was stated that I said that at the end of the day, it's worth it when, and kind of almost implying that we appreciated when people were not feeling well about certain work. And I want to make sure that the board understands that when we talked about it was worth it, we were talking about it in the context that we spoke about it today in terms of the hard work that the team is putting forward to move the work, and how the sacrifice and time spent to do the work is worth it when our students are achieving and thriving in our organization. And like I articulated earlier with the post-secondary work, you, Chairperson Carpio and Kara spoke about how it was transformational for you and your family. And that's what we want to see for all of our families as we continue to think about the 24-25 academic school year and the goals forward. That what we do, the investment we put forward really supports the achievement of our scholars. So when we talk about it's worth it, we're talking about the time spent in doing the work, becomes valuable and meaningful when we see our students thrive. So I think it's important to clarify that because I think earlier it was misrepresented. And I think it's an important point to clarify. With that, I will turn it over to Chairperson Clark.
Okay, thank you.
Unless there are any
Dr.
further questions.
All right. All good. So we're at the section of the agenda where we will vote and approve multiple items at once. We have approval of personnel, approval of budget transfers, approval of minutes. Any questions or updates on the minutes or anything?
Good. You know what I want to do? I wanted to make mention of the budget transfers and that it seems that they are reflective of a lot of the things we've been talking about with our budget. A lot of the transfers illustrate the need with MLL with specialized learning. So I just wanted to say that for the record. But I will be supporting this, obviously.
Thank you.
I think
Howard?
Yes, I support it.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye, raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
You, unanimous. Thank you, everybody. So now we'll have, our next item is monthly financial report. Linda, you are up.
I was told to sit down and get right back up. No, so you have the detailed financials with you. You've seen the transfers that come ahead. This is March, we're 75% through the year. Our total spend year to date is just under 71%, so it's consistent with where we would be this time of year. You've mentioned the cost related to specialized learning, which is categorized under other services. So you see that in that particular category, we're 14.7% higher than where we were last year. The primary drivers there is out of district tuition and transportation for specialized services. And therefore, that's kind of the story that we've been saying all along. We're working on the FY25 budget now. This is an area that we're watching closely, and we've started with the school-based budgets this week. We started yesterday through the end of next week, and so we'll be bringing additional information. As I've shared in the past, part of the FY25, part of every year's budget, we look at carryover from the prior year. And you recall last year, based on these challenges, we only carried over under 200,000. I don't anticipate us even getting that high this year, which creates additional challenges for next year because there isn't that cushion to fall on. But I think as of now, we're watching. We did put the city on notice. You remember at the beginning of the year that if we're not able to do that, we may be going back for a special appropriation, particularly to meet our specialized education cost. But so far, we're on track and we're on target, and I'll be coming to you, I believe, in May to kind of give you an update on where we are with FY25 and some of the things that we're seeing as far as the drivers of that budget. But I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
You were so good, Stephen. Okay, so now we have committee representative reports. So any board members that have any committee updates?
I'll give an update on the facility side. So I think we all know that there were 2 groundbreakings earlier this month, super exciting. The new Norwalk High School P-TECH groundbreaking was, I think, April 1st. And there was a lot of fanfare around that. Governor Lamont was here. So that was super exciting and everything's moving ahead there. And then there was also the groundbreaking at the South Norwalk School, which I was able to attend, and it was really something else. It was really special to be a part of that. We had Lieutenant Governor Bysowitz there, Senator Duff. But it was, you know, a long time coming that this school is finally going to be built for that community. So it's gonna be really exciting to see it come together.
Thank you, Karen. Anyone else? Overdue. That's a long, very long overdue. That's a long time.
Fortunately, I'm old enough to know that it's a long time coming.
I know.
Over
I
40.
mean, it happened during my lifetime, where kids were getting bused all over town.
Wait, I was getting bussed all over
To,
town, so.
right, to integrate the schools, and the kids were designated as 99s.
Right.
And,
District 99. You know, we learned that day.
schools were closed at that time in South Norwalk. and
Yep.
It's a long story, but you know what? We're here now and it's fantastic and we're gonna have a new school, so.
It's gonna be
Yay.
beautiful.
That deserves a room. So a reminder why we do what we do, right? Because some of us have been born and raised here and know the experiences of what these children are going through now. So fighting for things like new schools, neighborhood school means a lot. Our next subject is a board member announcements. This is where we, as board members, if we have any information or announcements to make, so the public gets to know us a little bit more and our colleagues get to know us a little bit more. Anything special coming up? Mary Ellen?
I'm probably not the only one on the board, but I did go chase the eclipse. Actually, got to see totality for 2 minutes, full totality.
Where
The
were you?
corona, the diamond, it was spectacular, and it was in Vermont. We went to a little town, population 5,000 of Waterbury, Vermont.
They have restaurants there.
Restaurant, and they have a gigantic green. Their town has only 5,000. Their green is 4 times the size of our green. And there was plenty of room for people who chose to go there, and then at the sports fields. It was it was thrilling. I would call it quietly thrilling.
Nice.
I'll go. Last month, I mentioned the Norwalk Actions for Reproductive Justice fundraiser that I hosted on April 5th.
That was
And thank you to some of the board members who came and supported. I really appreciate it. And we were able to raise $3,257 for the Reach Fund. And we had a lot of fun.
no doubt.
So I am on the board of the Mid-Fairfield AIDS Project. And we finally have a date for a Red Ribbon Gala. It's gonna be June 23rd. And so hopefully, you know, I will see some of you at this gala where we raise funds for people that are you know, either have AIDS, homelessness, drug addiction. So if you have any questions, you can chit chat with me. So thank you, everybody. There's been a lot of information today. Okay, now I would love a motion to adjourn. Motion, thank you. Seconded by Carol. Hi, thank you.
Bye, Howard.
Hi, Howard.
Good night.